doors open and for us to hire employees. And every year, my husband and I keep saying, why does this keep happening? Right now, my kids are out of the house, and so it's time for me to serve. I am just like you. I'm the hard worker behind the door that is busy raising our family, building our businesses up, and we haven't had time to really get involved in politics. But I can't sit back anymore and watch what is happening. Our states are 47th in the state in education. My grandkids are in school, your kids and grandkids are in school, and we're 47th. And I will not let my grandkids or your grandkids be 47th in anything. We need leadership in this state that listens to you, that comes to you, not listens to the Democrats up in Portland, not listens to the one-sided agenda, but listens to the constituents. That's you. And that's what I will do. Again, education, jobs, and economy are two of the most important things for me. The other thing is government transparency. I grew up on a farm out in Shaw with a really good work ethic. I picked berries, picked strawberries, and picked blueberries for my school clothes that I had to have. And my father taught me that if you tell somebody you're going to be somewhere, you're there. If you tell them you're going to do it, you do it. And your handshake is a contract, and that has not been happening anymore. And I can't pretend that I'm going to change the whole state of Oregon, but what I can tell you that I will do is I will represent the 60,000 people that are in my district, and you will have access to me. If you have an issue and a problem that you need, you know that you can contact me, and that I will get back to you. Because just like you, I've been behind my doors, raising our families, working hard, building our businesses, and assume that the people down there were doing it, and they're not. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to share some of my vision about the jobs, the economy, and our district. So thank you very much for having us today.
Hello. Quite obviously, I am not Teresa Alonso-Leone. My name is Audrey Meckling, and I'm her campaign manager. First of all, Teresa would like to apologize for not being able to attend today. She is currently preparing for a conference that she puts on in her role as the state's GED administrator. The annual GED Summit has become the premier professional development venue for the GED community. Further, it brings together education leaders from all around the state to discuss ways to help our students attain the education that they need to thrive in today's economy. So that's where she is today, and I apologize she isn't able to make it. Thank you all for letting me be here to share a little bit of information. So for those of you who don't know Teresa, she grew up in Woodburn, and she was the first in her family to go to college. She started her professional career advocating for students and helping them find their own paths to success. Everywhere she has worked all across Oregon, people say that she has truly made a difference. She then moved back to Woodburn after earning her degrees in Monmouth and Portland, and so she could stay close to her family and her community. Now she gives back by serving on the Woodburn City Council. Now, Teresa is running for state representative to get Salem's priorities straight and create a government that is accountable. There are too many politicians in Salem that don't have the right priorities and the best interests of our students, our working families, and our small businesses in mind. So Teresa will put working families first. She will make sure that big out-of-state corporations pay their fair share to support us in our schools, our communities, our small businesses, and our retirement. She will work to reduce the influence of special interests and big money in government, and make sure that funding is directed where it's needed most. So that means investing it in our public schools, investing it to make college more affordable, build strong job training programs so our local businesses can grow and thrive, and making sure that Oregonians can find good jobs to support their families and retire with security. So Teresa herself has achieved the American dream through education and hard work, and she wants to ensure that every hardworking Oregonian can achieve their own American dream. Thank you all.
Hi, I'm Patty Milne, and I'm running for House District 22. First of all, thank you to everyone on the board here at Latino Business Alliance for doing this. This is a great opportunity here. So, a little bit about me. My husband and I moved to Oregon, to Woodburn specifically. We chose to move there because we liked the idea that the community was so diverse and that Oregon overall is very diverse. Easy access to the mountain, to the beach, to the cities, etc. So we moved there to start a business, to raise our family. We have 3 children and 4 grandchildren, and grow some businesses. My husband has a business, I had a business, and after I began my service in the legislature back in the 90s, it was just impossible to keep a business going and devote 100% to being a state representative. Here I am now. I'm a mother and a grandmother, as I said, and I know that we all want the very same thing for ourselves and for our families. We want a world-class education for every student, and I don't think that's asking too much at all. For everybody, to have access to programs that meet the needs of the individual student. We want communities that are safe, that are thriving. We want opportunities for our children to have healthy activities. And we want jobs that are stable and give us the opportunity to climb the ladder of success and keep a little bit of our own money. I've had a lot of experience serving as an elected official, starting with the school board in Woodburn, working on a lot of community activities, serving in the legislature, and then as a Marion County Commissioner. My focus has always been, as serving on the school board, both a public and a private, is to put the students first, put their needs first. As both a state representative and a county commissioner, is to put the constituents first, always first. And I know from these experiences serving, and then also a great deal of community service, that the only way that we are going to solve our problems here in Oregon, we can't keep ignoring things like the PERS deficit, a $9 million hole in Medicaid, transportation issues, and the list goes on and on and on. We have to come together. We have to put our partisan differences aside, and we have to just be about the business of doing the work of the people. So I appreciate the opportunity again to be here, and thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us here today. This is odd, I get to go last. Normally I was teasing that I always go first with H. But anyway, nonetheless, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having us here today. I am Jody Hack, and I am running for re-election for House District 19, which includes parts of South Salem, Almsville, and Turner. And I decided to get into the legislature simply because I wasn't sure that my children and yours would have the same opportunity that we had. And so I had been involved for many, many years in public service, come from a family of ranchers and farmers and dairymen in my family too, and also a family that really believes in working with and reaching out to the community. My uncle was one of the original founders of the Union Gospel Mission and was the longest standing executive director and now has the Salunka House named after him, which not a lot of people know. And so having been involved in the grassroots, down to earth, working with families, I decided that the only way I was going to make a difference is if I stepped up and did something about it. And I'm kind of one of those people where you walk by something and you say, somebody ought to do something about that. And by about the 3rd time, my husband just shakes his head and says, oh, here we go. And so away I went. I've been married 27 years, have 2 children, both are in college now. One is soon to be married, which I can't believe. But I had the opportunity to serve on the Education Committee in the House and the Transportation Economic Development Committee and Natural Resources, Ways and Means, and was appointed to the Special Committee on Small Business Growth. So I'm sure we'll listen a little bit more about that as we go, and several other commissions and special appointments. I too passed 2 pieces of legislation for small business. I am a small business owner, have been for years. I write competitive grants, so I also have had the opportunity to work with schools, and I've written several Latino outreach grants, connecting students with teachers and WILL students. So we've had a tremendous amount of opportunity to get to know Latino communities, and working through that, I've also worked with Jose and others with the Oregon Community Foundation and the Latino Outreach Partnership, and I just valued that time so much, and it was so important to hear from there's really different generations and the Latino perspective from different generations through working in that partnership was really an eye-opener to me, and something that I think is very valuable as I work in the legislature. And so I've appreciated that work. I appreciate the fact that you brought us out here today, and I look forward to answering your questions as we continue on. So, thank you.
You actually did pretty good on time, so this next part's going to go fast, and we'll just go the same order. Go the same order.
One question at a time. We'll all answer the first question.
That's right. Same question. And does everybody feel good? So one of the, this is both in English and Spanish. I mean, this issue of Measure 97. I know it's confusion. It's really the biggest ballot measure we've ever had as far as spending goes. La propuesta de 97. Entonces, esa es la primera pregunta va a ser sobre eso. So this is the question. What are your thoughts on Measure 97? And in your opinion, how is it going to affect our Latino small business owners? That's the question. 2 minutes.
Alrighty, I've come out against Measure 97 because I feel it'll be more harmful than helpful. And I've relied on an evaluation by the Legislative Revenue Office, and it says that we'll lose 38,000 private sector jobs between now and 2022, either lose them or they won't be created. And the average cost to each family will be $600 more per family to pay for the tax that other businesses, the big businesses, will collect. Now, I think it's important to also note that even though the measure is aimed at certain big companies like what we call C corporations, Quadari would be affected, Powell's Book would be affected, the Oregon Medical Clinic would be affected, the Corvallis Clinic. It depends on how you incorporate your business. So on the basis of that harm, I've come out strongly against it. From a Latino business point of view, you have to purchase your goods from these businesses that are going to be taxed. And again, the analysis shows about 2/3 of the cost of the tax is going to be passed on not only to families but to your businesses. So you're going to pay more for your goods and supplies. So again, that is incredibly damaging. And interestingly, the remainder, the other 1/3, is generally going to come out of the employees that work for those companies in terms of their salaries and benefits. And probably a small amount to the shareholders if they have stock. So again, the people that are pushing this forward believe it will do more good than harm. Those of us on the other side say it's more harm than good because we're focusing on job loss, increased cost of living, and increased cost of obtaining the goods you need for your business.
Measure 97 was put on the ballot by citizens, and in that spirit, I'm very guarded about legislators weighing in on whether something is right or wrong, because the people decide, and it's our job at the end game to make it actually work. One of the things that people don't talk about is once the ballot measure is passed, if it's passed, there's implementing language. And in this particular case, 97 has some issues that will need to be tweaked. And I learned a valuable lesson during the last legislative session having to do with marijuana, that people that came out on both sides, on different sides, they weren't able to actually work on some of the fixes they thought would make it a better bill because of all the political noise that was made when they started shifting what they thought their position. So I'm looking forward to find out what the citizens of Oregon decide on this measure. That said, I think much of what Dr. Pierce talked about in terms of the cost side is probably true. What's not often discussed, however, is the potential gains. One of the specific ways in which this will help a number of small businesses is that, again, looking 10 to 20 years out, which LRO was not really allowed to do, it wasn't their function so much, is increased transportation opportunities, increased educational workforce development, and hopefully a safer, more capable healthcare system, especially for children. There's active initiatives, quite frankly, for children that may or may not be documented, that need care, that will probably not be able to be filled on if we can't get the additional revenue. Please be careful what I'm saying. It's not a program we're going to cut. It doesn't exist yet. It's one of the options on the table that there is. So, for me, I think at the end of the day, it will affect business. I think there will be some impacts. I don't believe among Latino business owners it will be directed mostly at your organizations. I do think that there are some opportunities coming out of it. I think to see what benefits come with the cost.
So, in case you guys didn't quite understand the answer for that, I didn't either. Just for the record, Mr. Evans is on record. He does support Measure 97. I oppose 97. As a business owner, I understand what it's going to do. Just like Bud Pierce said, it's going to affect each person $600 a year. I don't know about you, but $600 a year is a lot, especially when we have a lot of other expenses that are going to happen. And we can sit all day and talk about how it's going to affect, what's going to happen. What's really important to me is what I said earlier, is government transparency. That they can stand up here and say, oh, it's going to go for education, and promising it's going to go for education, and the elderly and low income. It's not. It's going into the general fund, people. The general fund. And we know what happens with that money. Well, actually, we don't know what happens with that money, right? It's misspent and mishandled. And I'm not willing to risk $600 more, my money or your money, to throw it to the general fund. It's not the solution to the problem that we have. And it's important that we have representatives speaking on their position on this issue rather than avoiding it and dancing around it, because we owe you that. As candidates and representatives, if you ask us a question on where we stand on issues, it's important that you tell us where you stand, because I hope to represent you. And you need to know where I stand on issues. Whether you agree with me or not, you know where we stand. And we need leadership in this state that is willing to make these hard decisions and do the hard things that need to get done, so we don't have another PERS problem that we're in the middle of and we can't get out of. We need leadership that's willing to take responsibility for things that need to be done, and we don't have it right now. And I am willing to step into that leadership position, and I will do it, and I will work hard. Thank you.
As someone who has spent her career advocating for students, Teresa looks at Measure 97 from an educational perspective. And she knows that our schools need more funding so that we can decrease class sizes and increase our graduation rates. As the GED administrator for our state, Teresa has seen that career technical education and apprenticeship programs can be a path to success for our students, and wants to see us actually investing in bringing back CTE into our high schools. Teresa is supporting Measure 97 so that we can make those critical investments in our schools, our healthcare system, and our senior services here in Oregon. And if elected, Teresa will fight to ensure that any new revenue is spent transparently on our schools, on healthcare, and on senior services. Teresa knows that making these investments in our education system will help our Latino small business owners by ensuring that they have a well-trained and highly skilled workforce. Measure 97 also evens the playing field for our local family-owned businesses, which is why over 400 small businesses across the state of Oregon have endorsed the campaign. Teresa believes that large out-of-state corporations need to pay their fair share when they have the privilege of doing business here in Oregon, just like all of you do. Thank you.
In addition to the concerns that Dr. Pierce brought up, I want to provide a little bit different perspective on this. A little bit of irony here. Former Governor John Kitzhaber was quoted in the Statesman Journal yesterday, and then this morning in the Oregonian. And I gotta tell you, I agree with him. And by the way, I worked across the aisle with him on health care for healthcare insurance that was directed at helping children. What he said in his article, and I quote, "The problem is that ballot measure 97 proposes to spend an additional $6 billion biennium," and that would be $3 billion every year, "on current programs, regardless of whether those programs are actually producing the outcomes we want. In other words, the ballot measure is based on assumption that all we need to get better outcomes is more money to fund existing programs. That is clearly not the case in our healthcare system or in our public education." Close quote. Then he went on to say, quote, "The proposed 31% increase in the general fund would eliminate any motivation for fixing the education funding disconnect created by ballot measure 5 and 50, measures that were passed in the 1990s. close quote. My campaign and my position always has been about the need for more oversight, fiscal responsibility, accountability on all government programs that we have. Most, I don't know that I want to say every, program is well-intended, and there are good, hardworking people working in these programs to serve people who need help from these government programs. But the problem is, actual lives are at risk because the programs are not serving the people they need, and I don't need to talk again about education or in the Department of Human Services where abused children, there were abused children through the foster care system. We need accountability, we need transparency. Thank you.
So, I'm just gonna be real with you. I am not supportive of 97, and I've made that very well known from the beginning. And again, in an effort to be real, it's a blank check to the legislature. And I can tell you, because I've been there and I served as well as Representative Evans over here, while I understand what he's saying about tweaks and making changes, when you're in a one-party rule who answers to unions and special interest groups, that doesn't happen. So the idea of a tweak on Measure 97, I'd like, I'll believe it when I see it. So it's bad for Oregon, it's bad for you, it's the largest tax increase in history. It not only is a 2.5% tax on gross receipts, but it is a compoundable tax. So it starts with I grew up in Eastern Oregon. We've got wheat ranches. It starts with the wheat ranch. They're gonna pay 2.5. The guy that produces the wheat and turns it to flour is gonna pay 2.5. The guy that packages and ships it's gonna pay 2.5. And then it's gonna go to the retailer, sells it to you and me, and they're gonna pay 2.5. So by the time it comes to us, it's gonna be 10% easy. So while we're looking at $600 a family, it could be much greater than that. And the impact of business is yet to be known. And that's the problem that we continue to have. We pass legislation and we say it's not going to hurt anything, and we don't see the immediate impact. We probably aren't going to see the immediate impact if 97 passes, but I guarantee you 5 years from now, we'll all be feeling it. It's bad legislation. We had $1.8 billion more in our budget in the last biennium. I was there. I watched it happen. We're anticipated to have 16% more than that this time, and it's still not enough. But when we had 1.8 billion last time, did we put more money to education? Barely, not much, a little bit more. So to say that it's going to go to education and it's going to go to seniors, I'll believe it when I see it. So thank you.
Okay, so we're going to shake off that question. Okay, so here's the second question. This has to be part of it. It's more, the answer is more of a conversation. That's sort of what we expected. So please describe any Latino outreach effort your campaign has taken so far. What have you learned? And based on that, are there any specific programs, tax incentives, policies you would push for to help Latino business owners? And that's the question we've had. A lot of the business owners say, well, there's going to be help with all these small business owners. But where is it? Tell me something specific. So,
Okay, so probably the best part of my campaign has been Latino outreach. I have more than half a dozen people in this room that have helped me with my Latino outreach, which has included planning commercials, literature in Spanish, Facebook in Spanish, just all manner of radio interviews, all manner of involvement. And again, that's probably the best part of my campaign as a whole. I have attended many activities, celebrations, hundreds, thousands of people have been there. And again, you sense the health, the vigor, I'll just say it's the power of the Latino people. And it's a movement that's on the move, and it's going to be very important to our country and our state to let Latinos achieve everything they can achieve in our society. I've spent time in some of the malls and such where people are working their third job and they have a food cart and they have 2 other jobs. And again, just overwhelmed by the work ethic. Let's just make sure students study 12 hours a day if they want to be a scientist, a doctor, a lawyer. We need that kind of effort too. That's very important. It's that whole education part. In terms of specifics, For Latino businesses, I like the idea of helping small business enterprise zones. If you increase the value of your business, your property value, you get a tax break, so you don't get that full tax on the property tax side. There's got to be some backfill from the state. I like tax credits for new entrepreneurs where if the first several years after you open a business, if you actually make some money, which is very hard, you get a tax break or tax credit against the state income tax rate, which kicks in very early. And the idea of helping with loan guarantees. You know, a lot of times people that don't have a strong credit record have a hard time getting loans from the banks. And again, can you get some of that? We have some already in Oregon. Can we beef up the partial loan guarantees by our state so more capital can flow to businesses? Thanks.
So, one of the things that experience at the local level in state government is taught me is that facts matter. So I want to clarify something before I talk about it. I am on record saying I will personally vote for 97 because I think it's about a 52-48% decision for me. There's some bad, there's some good. I think it outweighs in terms of the good. Publicly, however, I take my position very clear. The only ballot measure I talked about, the only ballot measure I've actually been under publicly on, is the one I put on the ballot, 96. 1.5% of the lottery set aside for veterans hours. So let's just keep that fact there. When it comes to outreach, outreach is the bread and butter of what anybody who seeks to represent House District 20 is going to do. Before I ran in 2014, working with Cocoon and others throughout the Independence, West Salem, Montana, and those communities, trying to figure out what we have in common, what specifically is needed in terms of legislation that is on the point of having learned and trying to put into action. Investments in transportation, especially on weekends in this community, is critical so people can actually get to jobs that right now they have a hard time getting to. Trying to make sure that education and workforce development is available. Have a bill in to hopefully create an Oregon State Deposit Store, which is not a bank, but the proceeds from which could be used for micro enterprise, especially for folks that have trouble with documentation. Loans for small businesses are terribly difficult to get. So that is one path to do it. It does involve tax dollars. Also working with Oregon Economic Development this last legislative session, I worked very hard to try to put more money into small grants, specifically for areas of new commerce, new opportunity. At the end of the day, we have to create a new economy for the 21st century. Latino community business owners, Latino community workers and families are critical to success. So I don't have a particular one answer, but it's going to take a lot of us working together to come to this.
Okay, so for my rebuttal for that, I understand that was his personal opinion, but the great thing about facts is this. We can go to voting records and look. Representative Evans had voted 98%, probably 100, but I'm giving him a 2% waiver with the Portland agenda, with his party. He never breaks from his party. His party is voting yes on this, so will he. With what I've done for the Latino community is what started my passion about, really to guide me then. I came to Latino Business Alliance. I met this gal named Maria. We had a conversation in the hallway. She was a self-employed cleaner. And I asked her, do you vote? And through the translator, she said no. And I said, why do you not vote? She said, because I'm afraid I will make the wrong decision. This broke my heart. There are 8,000 Latinos in my district. Only 1,800 of those Latinos voted. Why are 6,200 of you feeling that your vote isn't important to me and that your vote doesn't matter? So I came back and I met with some of the people at Latino Business Alliance and I said, help me to communicate with them. So I put together some flyers. Raquel, would you mind passing these out for me? I put together some Latino flyers. I took part of my budget, a very small, modest budget. I took a part of that, prepared a video in Spanish, so I can reach that community. I hired a walker, Josue. Hi, Josue. Because I found a pocket of doors where the people living behind the doors, we couldn't communicate. And I wanted to communicate with them. So I have Josue that comes with me and walks with me. So it's one thing to say, oh, I know what needs to be done. And there's another way to say, I actually do it. I don't stand up here and say, yeah, I see this as a problem. This is what's going on with our system. I actually do it. And transparency matters. So I just ask that you just go to representatives' records and look at where they're voting. Because that I did. And that's why I'm running. Because they are not voting with us as people. They're voting with the Portland agenda. Thanks.
So Teresa is proud to be a leader who will represent every part of this diverse community. We are really proud that we're running a trilingual campaign. So our website and our campaign literature is available in English, in Spanish, and in Russian, so that every member of our community can engage with Teresa's message. Teresa has made a priority to reach out to the Latino community so that they feel their voices are heard. That is why she has hosted town hall forums, both in English and in Spanish, and why she has visited the businesses in downtown Woodburn to speak directly to business owners about their concerns. If you ask Teresa about her favorite moment on this campaign, she would tell you about the voter on the doors who shared with her his concerns and then told her that this was the first time that a candidate had ever been to his door that he could speak with in his own language, that he could actually express himself to. And so it's through those conversations that Teresa has learned that one of the biggest concerns business owners have is a lack of access to capital to grow and expand. Or in the case of a lot of Woodburn businesses, she heard that they want to make improvements to their storefronts and the downtown area as a whole. And that's something that she's already been hard at work at in her time on the Woodburn City Council. As a member of the Urban Renewal Agency, she's been working to get businesses access to capital to improve the downtown area, to improve their storefronts. She will continue to prioritize that work as a state representative. So thank you all so much.
Another green child. So this is a really, really big question and not enough time to answer everything. So the outreach, again, having lived in Woodburn for 33 years, many of my friends are Hispanic Latino, as are many Russian, Slavic, and a number of other people. We have a great diverse community, and that's what makes it so great. So over the years, many business owners are friends of mine. And many business owners are new to the community, and many of them I did not know, in addition to the ones I already did. So I did, and I reached out to Jose, and thank you again so very much for helping to introduce me to many of the individuals and businesses that I didn't know. And that's been fantastic. I have also, and I'm talking primarily about Woodburn here, but also larger throughout the entire district coming into Salem. And just let me quickly say too, with my background, especially as a Marion County Commissioner, lots of interaction with various business groups. And of course, being a small business owner myself, I understand the concerns that you have, and it's already been mentioned. We need access to credit, we need capital, we need also the quality workers. And so there are a lot of ways that we can address that, and that's what I've heard. So I've taken a lot of time to visit individually with business owners and also with employees throughout the entire district, but focused on these Latino issues and learning more about what specifically affects each and every business. And of course, attending the Latino Business Alliance, which has been wonderful, meeting lots of new friends and learning so much more. Also, other leaders, Latino, Hispanic leaders in the community have shared with me studies and statistics and reports that have been tremendously helpful. And that is, again, what I will continue to do, and I am here to represent everyone who lives in the district, because that's the only way we're going to solve our problems and continue to build these relationships with each other. Thank you.
So, as I stated before, I developed a Latino partnership outreach, and will continue to do more of that work and learn a great deal from that. While we talk about voting records real quick, I gotta put it out there. I do have 100% voting record for small business. 100%. Yes, I am very proud of that. One of the things that I did during the legislative session was to hold meetings. My predecessor, Kevin Cameron, started this, and I continued it on to have meetings every other Friday morning with business leaders and leaders in our community. And I look in the room, and there has been a few of you that have come to some of those meetings, and I would encourage you, when I'm reelected, if I'm reelected, to come and join us in those. We talk about legislative issues that are hot topics, things that are happening, and it gives me an opportunity to share things with you that you might not know are happening or could be coming down the pipe. And it gives me an opportunity opportunity to get perspective from everybody. It's from restaurant and lodging folks to manufacturing folks. So I would encourage you to do that. That's one way that I have reached out and I've learned a ton, and it really gave me the ability to take that information back to committees and influenced how I vote on legislation. The other thing is being a part of the Small Business Growth and Development Committee, which is a special committee that the Speaker of the House put together. There are 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and we're going to keep working. And we actually have been able to work through quite a few things that are going to be really, I think, honestly good for business. I was a bit optimistic, I'll be honest, at first, but we've been given bill drafting authority, and we are working on some legislation that would create some incentives, not unlike some of what Dr. Pierce had mentioned, and also research and development for agricultural products. 80% of our products are exported, which brings a new revenue to our state. So we're committed in a bipartisan way. I'm working with Representative Weininger to do some legislation that would expand research and development and create incentives for new business growth in those areas. So I'm out of time. Thank you.
It's a lucky day, and it's raining, and we're on time. So here's the next question. So in 2007, Governor Ted Kulongoski signed an executive order which changed the requirements for the driver's license. There have been efforts to get a driver's card, but Oregon voters rejected it. Today, this issue remains a huge problem for our community, our businesses, farmers, and many others. Are there any actions you're willing to take to help solve this problem?
So this is a huge failure of our federal government. The answer to this obviously is comprehensive immigration reform, which will take away the driver's license card and many other problems the Latino community and all immigrant communities face. I believe in comprehensive immigration reform that President Reagan, that proposed by President Bush, that did not gain traction, and Senate Bill, I don't know the number, that passed the Senate on comprehensive immigration reform and has never been taken up for a vote in the House. If we get that type of legislation passed, these issues will not be issues anymore. What a governor can do, this is a federal issue, is get involved. I think what Governor Pierce would likely do is at least once a month, I'll make a phone call to the President of the United States and all 7 federal representatives and say, we need comprehensive immigration reform in Oregon. I think we need to organize a social media campaign with people in the immigrant community and of the non-immigrant community and demand that our federal representatives do their job because the people are suffering. It is not fair to have a permanent underclass, and that's what we're creating in our society. I think we need to give the new administration a chance. I think we need to give them a chance. I'm convinced that whatever administration comes in next will be ready to move on this issue. I think we need a groundswell of support from our states. It needs to be leaned on and pushed on, and I believe this will be solved. So the answer, comprehensive immigration reform. Thanks.
To begin with, please look at the records. I actually have, among Democrats, the worst Democratic voting record with Democrats. Also, I have an 83% voting record with that very liberal person, Mike McClain, the Republican minority leader in the House. When it comes to this particular issue, I am bewildered at how the modern Republican Party can even talk about this particular issue. I was for the driver's card. I still believe the driver's card is a path if we can figure out a way to make it work. But given the quote-unquote immigration strategy from the Republican nominee for president, which I assume involves trains, buses, and moving everybody that doesn't have papers out of the country, I think that there's a vast difference in this particular issue in terms of what we need to do. Here in the state of Oregon, as I have for the last 2 years, I will work with leaders in any community that wants to talk. I've had 80-some forums. We've taken ideas. We have 9 pieces of legislation in for small business development. We have to figure out how we're going to build a sense of community and get a method for people to get to and from work so they can produce and do it safely. We have to find resources to provide training to be successful, and we have to do it together. together. It means there's gonna be probably some short-term sacrifice. It doesn't mean just throw money at the problem. What it does mean is you put people around the table and you try to figure out the best solutions. That's how Oregon has always moved forward. But I do believe that we made a poor choice 2 years ago because we forgot that people working and getting access to work is a good thing. We have to get back to that approach. Thank you.
So the great thing here is we all agree on this as a major federal issue, and our hands are kind of limited what we can do here in our state. But one thing that is important is it comes back to our leadership, right? Why can't we as Oregon spearhead an effort? I've been endorsed by the Oregon Farm Bureau, the Marion Farm Bureau, and the Polk County Farm Bureau. And they endorse me because they know I understand these issues with driver prohibition. I understand they need workers to get to their field. I understand that not all Latinos want citizenship here in the United States. Some of them want to just come and work, and then they want to go back to their families. Some of them need that citizenship, but the red tape to get through to get that done is impossible. So they give up. I can't fix the whole United States. I can't fix all of Oregon, but what I can do is help with the 8,000 Latinos that are in my district. I have walked over 10,000 doors in my campaign right now. I can easily meet with 8,000 of you. And every one of you can come to me and say, this is my issue. This is what I personally need done. Laura, how can you help me? And I can do that for you because that's what a state legislator should do, and I will do that. Thanks.
Teresa views the failure of Measure 88, the Safe Roads measure, as one of the largest disappointments of recent elections, and I'm sure many of you do as well. All Oregonians need a safe way to travel to work, to school, to the grocery store, to the doctor's office, to church, to so many places. Offering driver's cards to individuals who do not have documentation allows them to learn the rules of the road, prove their competency driving on our streets, purchase insurance, and travel safely and legally in our communities. This is an issue that affects Oregonians from all walks of life, but we know it predominantly affects the Latino community. If elected, Teresa will be one of only 2 Latinos in the Oregon legislature, and her perspective will be really valuable in continuing to shift public sentiment and do the important work on the issue and many others that affect Latino Oregonians. Obviously, this is not something that Teresa can do all on her own. It takes community organizing and outreach and the kind of bridge building and conversation that the Latino Business Alliance does every day. So thank you all for the work that you do in building those bridges and starting these conversations.
Well, in addition to agreeing with what Dr. Pierce has said, comprehensive, and the issue of federal reform, I do want to back up and acknowledge that ballot measure 88 2 years ago in 2014 was extremely divisive. It pitted friends against friends and family members against family members, and it was the wrong approach to solve an issue, a concern, a reality that faces many people. And quite frankly, I think it set back legitimate discussion and to come to some solutions. So I want to also first say, before I offer some other thoughts, is as a human being, as a Christian, as an Oregonian, as a legislator, this is not the kind of approach to solving problems that I ever want to see happen again. One of the most important things that an elected official can do is to learn from mistakes, to acknowledge other views, and to be able to change approaches. And that is exactly what I'm doing here on this issue. I don't carry grudges. I also understand the value and the importance of forgiving. We will not solve any problem, this one or others, through confrontation. We won't solve any problems without respect for one another and without coming together, sitting at the table together, sharing ideas, concerns, and collaborating on solutions. And I know that there are some solutions out there. But we're not going to get to those answers and those solutions until we put the partisanship, the strong feelings aside and work together. And you can see by the endorsements and the support I have from every agricultural organization, my support is broad and deep. It includes public safety, insurance, finance, building organizations, everywhere. It's very broad and very deep because they have confidence that I will work on these issues for the betterment of all Oregonians' future.
So I'm not going to tell you anything you haven't already heard somewhat. Obviously, yes, this is a federal issue. I too work very closely with our farm bureaus and have a lot of agriculture in my district. So we all want folks driving safely. And one of the things that we did hear, resounding issue, didn't matter what industry was brought in, the Small Business Growth Committee, we brought in folks from around our state to have conversations about what's working for them, what's not, what issues they have, and it was a workforce. So I understand the importance of needing a workforce, and we have some issues around that. One of the things I think that was most shocking to me, being in the legislature, is the lack of involvement that we have with the people. And decisions are made, and then oftentimes folks come back if we have an unintended consequence. So the actions that I think first need to happen are exactly this. But you don't need to be hearing from us. We need to hear from you. We need to sit down and have real conversations about the real issues and not be afraid to have them. Because we can all sit at the Capitol and think we don't have an issue, but we do. So I want to challenge us to sit down in the next couple of years and have the tough discussions and just be real with each other. Because I think if we start there, that's where we're going to come up with the solutions that are better for all of you and better for our state. Thank you.
So how does everybody feel? A little bit better? Over? You know, like I said, these are some of the issues. This is it's people are going to undertake when running for office. You know, we want to definitely thank them for coming up here and answering every question that we have for them. And so the first thing we'll do is let's give a round of applause for everybody. You know, always, from this point of view, let's applaud for them for taking the time to come. You know, we do as an awkward time, but it's the best we can do in this political season. We know ballots are in the mail. We know they're on your piece of paper. Make sure you vote. You know, on your chairs, we have information on our next event, which is the Expo Negocio, a couple weeks away. Full day right here in the same building. And if anything, I can tell you that I've gotten to know everybody here personally. They're all willing to sit down and talk to you. They're all willing to be open to new ideas. And like I said, that's step one. And then that's where the magic happens, because you guys know just as much as we. We just got to go in there and get involved. Muchas gracias y que pasen muy buenas tardes.